Hi, this is Brooke with Funeral Financial. We are a funeral funding company. Today we've put together this little tutorial. If you're a funeral home interested in potentially working with Funeral Financial, this will tell you a little bit about us and then tell you how to go through the paperwork to get a claim started. But we also thought this might be helpful for funeral homes that are already working with Funeral Financial. If you hire new staff and you'd like to train them, we'd love for you to use this video to explain to them why you use Funeral Financial and also train them how to do the paperwork to get that claim started. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit first about Funeral Financial itself. Why use Funeral Financial? We have over 50 years of doing business in this industry, and we are pioneers in the industry. So we have worked with all of the insurance companies. There isn't a type of claim we haven't seen. We have a lot of experience, and we'd like to put all of that experience to work for your funeral home. Probably one of the most important reasons to use Funeral Financial is that we improve your cash flow. By using us, you actually provide a service to your clients that allows the funeral to be paid for right away without having to have them pay out of pocket or you or the family having to wait for a possible future insurance payment. We ensure that all of the proper forms that the insurance company requires are filled out and filed. That allows your client to be paid any excess funds from the insurance company as quickly as possible. So they definitely recognize that as a benefit that you're providing them. And one of the things that we do for you is we're actually going to do all of that insurance paperwork for you. We're going to do those claim forms. Once you file the initial 2 forms, we're going to take care of everything else for you. So it's a service that we provide for you, and then by extension, you're providing that to your clients. It is very simple to start a claim. It's just 2 pieces of paper. We will walk you through every step of the process, but it is super easy, fast, and we can help you with any questions that come up along the way. One of the things that's unique to Funeral Financial is that we do not do chargebacks, and I'll get into this in just a minute, but we are never going to come back to you and ask you to refund to us money that we've paid you on a claim. Once we've paid you, that money is yours, so that there is that added layer of security when you are working with Funeral Financial. And again, I'll cover some more details about that in just a moment. Finally, we, again, have 5 decades of experience in this industry, so we handle all types of claims. We will work with individual claims. We will do group claims through an employer. We don't hesitate to pay on pending death certificates, so if an autopsy is pending or it's a coroner's case and that death certificate is going to be a while, not a problem. We also do cases that are homicides. There isn't a claim that's too complicated. We've worked with them all, and we are happy to do so again to help your funeral home. So what makes Funeral Financial unique? We do all of the paperwork for you. We're going to figure out what the insurance company needs, what specific claim forms they're going to require, and we're going to take care of all of that for you. You only have to execute the 2 forms that we're going to go over in just a minute to start a claim. And once that claim is verified, the only other things that you need to provide us are a funeral bill and some proof of death. If the death certificate isn't ready, we'll accept an obituary from the funeral website, a burial permit, something like that, just a proof of death. Once we have those things, we will pay you. And again, we're going to take care of all the rest of the paperwork for you. What that means to you is that you're not going to have to chase families down after the funeral. You're not going to have to get them to sign other papers or bring in papers. We're going to take care of all of that for you. And the families are going to see this as a benefit because during this difficult time, it just makes things easier for them. They're not going to have to worry about doing all of that work. The other thing that makes Funeral Financial unique among all funeral funding companies is that we do not do any chargebacks. We are never going to come back to you and ask you to refund payments that we've made to you on a claim in the event that the insurance company has made a mistake in verification, didn't recognize a loan, there were premiums due, something like that, or doesn't pay us in full. We have a legal team on staff that works with the insurance companies on these claims, but even if we never get paid in full, we will never come back to you and ask for any of that money back. So again, an extra added layer of security that you can feel very comfortable with when you're working with Funeral Financial. So let's talk about how to get a claim started. There are 2 pieces of paper that you fill out and submit to us. We can email or fax those to you if you'd like to fill those out by hand. You may have already gotten some of them in the mail in a packet, but there are some little time-saving benefits if you actually go to our website and fill them out online. And in addition to that, they're available 24/7 there. So let's take a look at how you go and fill those forms out. Our website is funeralfinancial.com. So let's switch screens here and we'll go. Okay, so here we are at a web page, and we're just going to go to funeralfinancial.com. This is what our webpage looks like. There are several areas up here you're free to explore. The 2 that I want to talk about today are the forms and the fee calculator. So let's start with forms. I want to go down to the bottom one, insurance forms, just so you know that that's available to you. We keep a library of insurance company specific claim forms. Again, if you're doing the claim through Funeral Financial, we're going to take care of all of that for you. But if for some reason you are looking for an insurance claim form, perhaps it's something you wanted to provide to the family or you needed it for reference, know that you can come to our website and you can download those forms from our library. But again, if you're doing the claim through Funeral Financial, we're going to take care of all of that for you, so you don't need to worry about that. So the claim forms that you're going to want are our claim forms. It's the Funeral Financial form. So let's click and we'll go there. This is the page it takes you to. These 2 forms right here, these are the only ones that you need to fill out for us. Once you submit these 2 forms to us, we are able to go ahead and start working on that claim. If you scroll down a little bit, just for your reference again, there is an entire forms packet that you're welcome to download. In addition to the 2 forms above, it has some other specific forms, affidavits, different things like that. Again, if you're doing the claim through us, we're going to take care of all of that for you. But if you wanted those forms just for a reference, they are here for your convenience. You're welcome to take a look at those. But again, the only 2 forms that we need you to fill out are these 2 forms right here. You are welcome to fill them out by hand, print them out and fill them out. But if you fill them out online, as I show you in just a second, one of the neat little things is that as you start to fill information in here, it will automatically fill in that information in other parts of the forms where that same information is needed. So it's a little time-saving tip. The other thing is that if you fill it out online, when we get these forms, they're very easy to read because everything's been typed in. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to verify for you because there's no problems with deciphering individuals' handwriting or signature spellings, numbers, things like that. So that's definitely a little bit of a benefit that can help speed up the verification process. But again, you're more than welcome to fill out these forms by hand. But let's click on this first form and go through how to fill it out. So at the very top, we have the insured's name. That's the deceased, the name of the deceased. So we'll do John Doe. We're going to need the Social Security number and the date of birth for the deceased. Oftentimes, insurance companies will ask us to verify this information for security reasons before they'll verify death benefits for us. So if you'll go ahead and be sure that you fill that in for us, that would be fantastic. So there's a Social Security number and then the date of birth. And then right here, we need that date of death. And then place of death. So we really just need to know the city and state so that we can ensure that they passed away in the United States. So you might put, St. Mercy Hospital here, but it's the city and state that we're really looking for. So be sure that you fill that in for us. And then we go to cause of death. Again, we do natural, homicide, suicide, accident, and unknown. None of those will slow down the process of payment. We can certainly pay on accidents and unknown pending causes. What we do ask is if it is unknown or if it's an accident, if you'll just put a little bit of information about the circumstances of death right here. Again, not a problem for us to pay. It won't slow us down at all, but our accounting department does like to know that we're not missing a homicide or someplace where there's suspected foul play. So, for example, if it was unknown, you might put, suspected drug overdose, pending autopsy. That also helps because then we know that death certificate with the cause of death is going to be a little bit delayed. Again, not a reason to delay payment to you, but it just lets us know that it's going to be a little bit longer for that death certificate to come. If it's an accident, again, you might just put like motorcycle accident. again, just to provide us a little bit of extra information that our accounting department is going to want to know before they release that payment to you. So if you'll just fill those in. Again, most of the claims that we do are natural, but we can absolutely handle all of these. Then we go to type of insurance. Is this a group policy? In other words, was this issued through an employer, or is this an individual policy where it's just a normal whole life or term life policy? So you just want to check whichever one it is. So let's say this is a group. If this is a group, we need to know the employer's name, the company's name, and the person there that we need to contact to touch base about benefits. Usually that's someone in the HR department. So for example, let's say this was Motor Company, and we want to talk to Rachel at 555-555-5555. So just be sure to give us that company name and a contact person. Sometimes with group policies, we verify with the employer, and sometimes it's with the insurance company themselves. One thing that's important is if you have a group, it's very necessary for the family to call that company and report the death. That's important for two reasons. The company oftentimes is the one that starts the claim with the insurance company. The employer starts the claim with the insurance company, and they have to pass claim-specific information over, like beneficiary information that they've stored. So the sooner your family can notify the employer, the faster that process gets started, and the faster that we are able to verify. The other thing is that when they notify the employer, if they'll let this person know that we're going to be calling, it oftentimes gives them more comfort level in releasing that privileged information to us. And so, again, it helps us to verify faster so that we can pay you faster. So just be sure to fill in that company name and contact person. If this is not a group policy, if this is an individual policy, then you can just leave this line blank. Then we come down to this line, and this would be the insurance company, whether it's the insurance company that the group uses or just who the regular policy is through. So let's say that would be MetLife. And then here's where you'll put your policy number. So you can put that right there. If there's an additional number, more than one, you can just add those right there. If there's a claim number or a group number, this is also the place that you would put that. With group policies, we know that usually the policy number is the Social Security number, so we'll take care of that. But again, if there's a group number, please put that down here. Then we come here and we're going to put the amount that you're wanting to have for the assignment. And we're going to talk about how to calculate that in just a second. Because one of the really important things with doing business with us is that it's really going to be your family or the insurance company that's paying the fees, not the funeral home. We want you to be able to take home your entire funeral bill. So we're going to show you how to do that calculation so that you know how to ask for an assignment that's going to allow you to take home everything that you need after the fees are taken out. So we'll go over that in just a minute. Then we have the funeral home name. And then we get down to beneficiary information. So we're going to put the name of the first beneficiary. We will need their Social Security number and their date of birth. So we'll put that Social Security number in there. And a date of birth. And then who is this beneficiary to the deceased? Sometimes this gets a little confusing. But is Jane Doe the parent of the deceased? Are they the spouse of the deceased? Are they the child of the deceased? Are they the sibling of the deceased? Just check what they are. And certainly there's an other here in case they're a family friend or a cousin or anything like that. But let's say this is the spouse. And then we need the Benny's mailing address. Again, sometimes the insurance company will need that information, especially if there's going to be excess funds that they're going to need to mail to the Benny. And one thing that people often forget to give us, but it's really actually important, is the phone number for the beneficiary. So if you have that, it's really helpful if you can provide that for us. The reason being is that if we are the first person to make the report of death, a lot of times the insurance company would like contact information for the beneficiary. And if we can provide that phone number, they will sometimes waive the need for additional forms. So if you have this and can provide it, that would be excellent. If you just have one Benny, that's all the information we're going to need. If there's a second Benny, there's a place here for a second beneficiary to have their information filled out. Certainly, if there's more than two, you just fill out or print additional forms and fill those out. Then we come down here. The beneficiary is going to sign here. And again, there's a place for the second beneficiary if there's more than one. And then you're going to type in the relationship. And then we're going to type in the date. And then this is where starting to fill it out online has its benefits. If you're doing this by hand, you would just write in the beneficiary's name printed. But if you're filling it out online, you'll see that it's already going to have this information filled in for you. So that's really nice. And then down here, you're going to have the notary sign and stamp. And they can place their stamp anywhere. Some people like to do it right here. But what we found is that a lot of funeral homes like to put their stamp up at the top just because then it doesn't interfere with anything else that's going on the page and it's very easy to see and find. But the important thing is just to be sure that they sign and stamp this page. And then we come down to the second page. And again, if you've been doing this online, you'll see that all of this information is already filled in for you. So again, a nice little time saver. But if you're doing this by hand, this is just going to be the deceased name, the insurance company, and the name of the employer if this is a group. Policy or claim numbers would be down here. Funeral home name, and the amount that you're asking for the assignment. And again, we're going to go over how to calculate that in just a moment. We come down here and the date. And then the beneficiary is going to sign here. The relationship's already been filled in. And again, if there's a second beneficiary, they're going to sign here. If you have more than two, you can certainly just print out extra forms and they can sign. And then we come to the bottom. Again, the date will go right here or will already be filled in. A funeral home director is going to sign right here. Someone authorized by the funeral home will sign here, and then the funeral home name will go here. And then we'll have the date, and then the notary's name is going to go here. So Sue Notary, for example, printed. The printed name of the Benny or the beneficiaries. And then this is going to be the printed name of the person who signed for the funeral home. So let's say Dan Director. And then the notary is going to sign and stamp here. And it's that simple. You just print those out and then you fax them or email them to us and we will get the claim started. So let's go back now and let's take a look at how we actually calculate what you want to put in this assignment form so that you get paid the full amount even after our fees are taken out. So we're back at our webpage, funeralfinancial.com, and we come over here to the fee calculator. So if you click on that, this is the page that it goes to. So let's talk about how to fill this in. So the first number that we're going to fill in is your funeral costs. That's your actual funeral bill amount. That is what the family would pay if they were going to pay you cash to cover all of your costs. So let's say that this funeral will cost $5,000. Then you press tab. The next line is family advance. So this is any cash advance that you're going to be giving or loaning to the family before the funeral. So many times it may be zero, but in this case, let's say that we're going to advance them $500. Press tab. The administrative fee is usually $84. And when you press tab, that's going to give you a total right here. This is actually what you want us to wire you or pay you by check after our fees are taken out, so that when you receive this, you've actually covered all of your costs and are paid in full for your funeral bill. So we come down here and now we have the funding rate. For most of our claims, that's going to be 3%. So you just put a 3 in there, press tab, and it does all of those calculations for you. You can see this is the amount of the fee. That's what 3% will be. And then this is the total assignment. So this is actually the number that you're going to want to use when you fill out those forms as the amount of the assignment. That way, when the insurance company pays this amount and we take out our fees, you are left with everything that you needed to cover your administrative fee, cash advances, and the funeral bill. So when you fill out your funeral bill, it's important that the total for the funeral bill equal this number here or more. It's fine if it's more than this, it just cannot be less. So the way you're going to do that is when you do your funeral bill, you'll put all your costs in, you'll total it, and then you're going to add an additional line that says insurance processing fee, and that's where this number goes. And then you do a final total, and that should equal this or more. So that's how you calculate those fees, again, so that it's actually your family and the insurance company that are covering our fees, and you're getting 100% of what you need to cover your costs. So let's go back now and talk about just a few special circumstances where we might be able to give you some tips on how to get those claims going. Sometimes there is a second assignment on a policy. This occurs when either a cemetery or another funeral home is also going to be using proceeds from the same insurance policy or policies that you are. This can happen, for example, if a death was out of state, there's a funeral home in that state that's taking some of the charges or transportation fees. When this happens, we just need you to let us know, and we need you to let us know the exact amount that the other assignment is going to be, so that when we verify, we can ensure that there's enough to cover both of those amounts with the policy or policies. And you can just, when you print the forms out to send to us, just write that in with the amount, or you can just call us and let us know. It just speeds up the verification process. Homicides. We absolutely do claims that are homicides. One thing that we need to do in the case of a homicide is that we need to ensure that the beneficiary is not a suspect in the case. Usually they're not, but every now and then we run into a case where they are. And we can rule them out in one of two ways. If there's a newspaper article that states that an arrest has been made, if you can send that to us or let us know that it exists, we can pull that off the internet. Or if the case is still under investigation, if you can just provide us the name and phone number of the detective working the case, we can just give them a quick call and make sure that the beneficiary is not a suspect. And again, you can just write that in on the sheet right before you fax or email that to us. And then once we verify that, then we're able to pay you. What if the funeral home is the beneficiary? This is often the case in pre-need policies. What you'll do is the funeral director will actually fill out the form for the funeral home in the beneficiary area. Next to their name, they would put the name of the funeral home and funeral home director. So, for example, it would be Dan Director, funeral home director for Acme Funeral Home. In place of a social security number, you would use the tax ID for the funeral home, and you would use the funeral home's mailing address. You would just leave the date of birth area blank. Even though it's the funeral home that's the beneficiary, we still need a family member to fill out a beneficiary section to provide us contact information and sign the funeral bill. The insurance companies oftentimes still like to have that information, even though it's the funeral home that's going to be the beneficiary. It doesn't matter which family member, just any family member can fill out a little beneficiary section on our form and sign that funeral bill. Pending cause of death. This is one of the places where we can really be of service to you. As you know, if it's a pending cause of death on a death certificate, for example, an autopsy or a coroner case, that can delay an insurance payment for months or even longer, but we will still pay you right away. We will be the ones that wait for that payment, but you can still have your money up front. So it's really a place that we can increase your cash flow for you. Again, as we talked about before, when you fill out that form, if it is a pending cause of death, if you'll just make a little notation of what the suspected cause of death is, and if it's pending an autopsy or a coroner's case, so that we know the death certificate's going to be delayed getting to us, and so that, again, we can just rule out that we're not looking at a homicide or suicide just in case that would affect what the insurance needs to know. Couple things just not to forget. Be sure that both of those pages are stamped and signed by the notary. Sometimes they'll put their stamp on there, but they'll forget to sign. So just be sure that both are stamped and signed. Be sure that a family member signs the funeral bill. So while they're there, if you'll just generate that funeral bill and have them sign at the bottom, most insurance companies do want a family member to show that they've approved that funeral bill. Again, if it's a group claim through an employer, please provide us the company name and a contact person at the employer so that we can get in touch with them quickly. And again, be sure that the family calls the employer to notify them of the death so that the employer can start the process of transferring information and opening the claim with the insurance company. Again, as soon as you finish those 2 pages, just fax them or email them to us, and we will get started on that claim right away. You can always contact us, our phone number, our fax number, our email. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have. We can help you with filling out the forms if you have questions. Sometimes situations come up, you don't know who the Benny is, something like that. We're happy to walk you through that, or how to calculate those fees. Again, anything that we can do for you that helps you stand out as a funeral home and provide the very best service to your families. That's what we want to do. So please let us know any way that we can help you, and we look forward to working with you and handling claims for you.